Hello, once again, race fans. This is the NASCAR Show. I'm your host, Alex Gray. You're listening to The Grueling Truth, where legends speak. Steve is not here today, but I still have Bobby Sheridan here with me from the Sheridan Report, who will be going over some odds as well as making our predictions at the end of our show today. Bobby, how you doing?
I'm doing great, Alex, and I'm looking forward to this race maybe a little bit more than normal just because it's in my hometown. Auto Club Speedway, Fontana, is a 15-minute drive for me, maybe 20 minutes. And so it's kind of neat when the race is near you, you know?
Oh, yeah. It's kind of like me growing up with Kentucky Speedway.
Yeah, exactly. So it's kind of cool. And I've not been to see the race. I'm usually just so busy with the sports and the games and just staying on top of my job, you know. But when you go to the race, it's an all-day affair, so I usually don't go. But, you know, it's really neat to know that it's there. And I've been to the track. It's a really nice-looking track, and it should be a great race. I'm really looking forward to it.
Definitely, I'm looking forward to it too. I think it's I've always liked Auto Club. It's a relatively more wide open and fast 2-mile track, similar to Michigan, up in Brooklyn, Michigan. So we left off with Phoenix as far as our West Coast swing. Fun fact, actually a lot of teams ended up for the first half of the week, they stayed at ISM Raceway to actually prepare their cars for Auto Club since they're out west in part of this West Coast swing. So Kyle Busch got the win there. Kyle Busch got his 199th win across all three series in NASCAR, and he's looking for 200 here this week.
I saw that kind of brought out some talk, too, on Twitter because Richard Petty, is he the leader? Richard Petty's the leader in total wins. Is that correct?
Yeah, Petty has the Cup Series lead of all-time wins with 200. And
right, and somebody that was defending Petty, and I don't know if it was an official person or just a fan, but I saw it where they said, hey, look, Kyle Busch's 199 doesn't compare in any way to Petty's 200. And I wasn't here to I don't know whether, you know, how to think of that, but the one thing I do know is it's two different eras. And Kyle Busch is a hell of a racer. I'm not saying he's better than Petty or not, but that's still an unbelievable accomplishment.
Yeah, I mean, I believe Kyle Busch is the best driver of our time right now. He's, you know, and I know a lot of people like to complain when he wins the truck and Xfinity races, but he's just that good of a driver. And with Richard Petty, you know, that was during a time where NASCAR would race multiple races in a week instead of just every Sunday. You know, that was a totally different time.
Yeah, I didn't know that.
Yeah, there was one year where Petty got like 27 wins in 1 year. So, you know.
Yeah, so I think people need to realize that too. You know, the pro Petty camp as the best driver or the number one wins, you know, has to realize what you just said is a fact also. It can't just be one way.
Yeah, and I remember thinking about this too. How can you tell who is the greatest NASCAR driver of all time? When you look at especially the 3 7-time champions, Petty, Earnhardt, and Johnson, all across different eras of racing. So to me, it's hard to determine that. You know, Kyle Busch is a future Hall of Famer. He's an amazing driver. But it is hard because they all came from different eras, especially with auto racing. And auto racing changes so much over time. It's just hard to compare sometimes.
Right. It's kind of like baseball, too. I mean, who's a better home run hitter, you know, Hank Aaron or you know, somebody from current, you know, I don't know, Albert Pujols. Or, you know, you don't know. You know, it's two different eras and two different times. And
the game changes.
And the game changes. That's right. And these guys, yeah, I don't want to get off of the baseball talk, but, yeah, that's a perfect analogy, you know, for racing. It's different eras.
All right. So that's Phoenix. And let's start off, hit off some NASCAR news here. So the first, so Tony Stewart headlines new nominees for the NASCAR Hall of Fame class of 2020. Tony Stewart, a 3-time champion in the Cup Series, as well as a 2-time winner of the Brickyard 400. I got to see one of those in person in 2005. Tony Stewart definitely is a first ballot Hall of Famer. He's definitely getting in there. To me, you could put Tony Stewart in anything, he would succeed at it, because he first came up as an open wheel racer and then went into NASCAR, which to me is a very difficult transition for anyone to make. And also such a rare group of individuals have been able to do that. And I think that plays in part of how the stock cars have changed over time. You look at guys like A.J. Foyt, Mario Andretti. They tried their hand at NASCAR and they were kind of successful. Mario Andretti won the Daytona 500 in 1967. And, of course, Tony Stewart didn't even win a Daytona 500, which it's kind of bumming that he didn't, because I know that's the one thing that he hasn't checked off in his whole career. I'll go through a full list here of all the Hall of Fame nominees for 2020. We got Sam Ard, a 2-time Xfinity Series champion. Buddy Baker, 19 career Cup wins, former Daytona 500 and Southern 500 winner. Neil Bonnet, 18 wins in the Cup Series. Red Farmer, 3-time late model sportsman champion and the 1956 modified champion. Ray Fox, former engine builder, crew chief, and car builder. Harry Gant, 18 Cup Series wins, including 2 in the Southern 500, who was a rookie at 40 back then.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and that's another thing, too. I learned this through some talking to just some NASCAR friends on Discord. We were talking about how in the 90s and 80s, it was more normal to be a rookie at like 30. And now it's like you see 20, 19, 18-year-old rookies out there. It's just that's another part of how NASCAR has changed as well. Joe Gibbs, yeah, definitely. Joe Gibbs is on there. I think he's definitely getting in. Championship car owner. Of course, also former NFL head coach. John Holman and John Holman and Ralph Moody. They ran a team called Holman Moody Racing, 2-time Cup Series championship owners. Harry Hyde, 1970 Cup championship crew chief. Bobby Labonte, 2000 NASCAR Cup champion. Nice to see Bobby on there. Herschel McGriff.
These are all the nominees, right?
Correct.
And how many of these will typically make it out of all these names that you're giving?
5. They elect 5 every year.
5. Okay, cool. All right.
Yep. Herschel McGriff, 1986 West Series champion. He actually, I think at like the age, I think he's like 92 now or something like that. He actually drove in a K&N race about a year or 2 ago and actually did relatively decent.
Gosh. That's
great. That is Herschel McGriff. I wouldn't be, actually, he'd probably be a good choice too. All these are good choices, really. Marvin Panch, 1961 Daytona 500 winner, 17-time winner in the NASCAR Cup Series. Jim Paschal, 25-time winner in the Cup Series. Larry Phillips, 5-time NASCAR Weekly Series champion. Ricky Rudd, 23-time winner, 1997 Brickyard 400 winner. Mike Stefanik, 9-time NASCAR champion across different circuits. Tony Stewart, Red Vault, founding member of NASCAR and a former mechanic. And Waddell Wilson, I hope I said that right, 3-time Cup Series champion as an engine builder.
Wow. It's nice that those guys get, NASCAR does a really good job of seeing that everybody is, each portion of the success in the sport is recognized. NASCAR
definitely
does a really good job of that, and well, let me ask you a question. Tony Stewart would be a slam dunk, I'm sure, to get nominated, and in my own mind, I'm thinking Joe Gibbs would be a slam dunk. Do you agree with that? Yeah. And then who would be your next couple that you would think would make it?
Oh man, these are good choices.
Yeah, I know. Jeez.
Yeah, I definitely say that. What's that?
As you were saying that list, I'm like, how do you get this down to 5?
Yeah.
There was stuff.
It really is. Definitely Stewart. Definitely Gibbs. Harry Gant. Actually, Buddy Baker wouldn't be a bad choice. I think Buddy Baker could get in. Maybe Red Vault, just for being one of the founding members. Just to, recognize him in that manner would be really nice.
Right.
let's see here.
The last guy you mentioned with the engine building, what was his name?
Waddell Wilson.
Wilson. I'm kind of curious if he'll get in. I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah, I could see that, especially as an engine builder, especially even like guys like Robert Yates, obviously, he had his engine company as well, and he got in the Hall of Fame too. So let's see.
Cool. Yeah.
There are 3 new nominees that were added to the landmark award list. Those people were Edsel Ford II of the Ford Motor Company, Pocono Raceway founder Dr. Joseph Mattioli, and Mike Helton, the first non-France family member to be named NASCAR president.
Wow. Very good. That's a great list.
Very good list. I'm looking forward to seeing who will be inducted into this Hall of Fame. And
do you know? Does it say there, or are you aware of when we'll know that?
I'm going to check here. I do not know when they do. I assume, obviously, later in the year. There'll probably be some news regarding that. I'd say later in the year, and then they'll in January. I think they'll induct the class. Of course, not too long ago. Yeah, not so long ago they inducted the 2019 class with put Jeff Gordon, Davey Allison, Alan Kalicki, Roger Penske, and Jack Roush into the Hall of Fame.
Yeah. Well, that'll be a nice build-up and, for the sport.
Yeah, it really is, especially that the NASCAR Hall of Fame opened just back in 2010. It's still relatively new. And, since then they've been slowly adding on into this Hall of Fame. So.
And where is it located?
Charlotte, North Carolina.
In Charlotte, North Carolina. Okay.
Yep.
Very good.
Just like most of NASCAR's headquarters. Let's see. Moving on to some more news here. Let's see here. It went away from me. I want to talk about the viewership for Phoenix as well, by the way. I forgot to bring that up. Once again, if I read that correctly, here's the top 10 most watched sports events of last weekend according to Adam Stern. And the Phoenix race just happened to be on the top. 2.9 rating, up 4% from last season. So once again, NASCAR really improving. So they earned a 2.9 final rating, up 4 and 5% respectively from last year's race. That means the Monster Energy Cup races have now seen natural increases in 2 straight weeks, which is good news. I think NASCAR is definitely taking some things into the right direction, especially that they've been pushing more advertisement outside of the networks that they're generally broadcasting on, which I think is really helpful. So,
yeah, that's great to see as a fan and as someone who wants it to, NASCAR to be really successful. We know that TV ratings are huge, and it's neat to see them, coming back up a bit. And of course, the on-track attendance is important too, and it looked last week that Phoenix was pretty good, pretty well attended. At least it looked that way to me on television.
Yeah, I noticed this last spring when they did the West Coast swing that the West Coast races actually packed relatively well. Vegas was pretty packed, and I'm sure Auto Club will be packed too. It was pretty packed last year, so that's good too, because I've known for quite a while that NASCAR has struggled with attendance at some tracks, so I'm glad to see that's been improving.
Yeah, that's good.
All right, so we'll move on to that. Here's some breaking news that actually came out today, or yesterday actually. Jeff Gluck posted this. There will be a slight change to Cup qualifying rules starting at Fontana in light of the craziness at Vegas, and I guess you could say Atlanta. Pit road speed will now be enforced during the qualifying session. NASCAR confirmed this. It says here in each qualifying round, if a competitor exceeds pit road speed exiting onto the track, the vehicle must return to pit road before being eligible to post a qualifying time. If a competitor exceeds pit road speed, returning to pit road, the time or times posted on that run will be disallowed. because under this new aero package, and I think the aero package plays a factor in why they're doing this. They've been kind of doing more of the rounds in group qualifying instead of just, one car after another car going out, like single car qualifying. And it seems to become more draft advantaged. And I remember in Atlanta where Austin Dillon, I think, posted the quickest times in rounds 1 and 2, and then Clint Boyer decided to race him off pit road at high speed at Atlanta, I think. And, of course, Vegas was crazy as well. Unfortunately, I wasn't really able to watch too much of qualifying due to work. But it's interesting that NASCAR is doing this, especially that with this new – well, it's not relatively new. They've done this for a while now with the group qualifying and the rounds. For qualifying, basically, most races will be round 1, the top 24 advance. If there's any more than 40 drivers entered, that determines who's in, who's out of the open cars that don't have a charter. Round 2, the top of those 24 cars, the 12 fastest go into the final round, which will set the pole sitter and, of course, complete the starting lineup for the NASCAR race. So I start to think about this. They do this at Daytona and Talladega because of usually you want to look up the final round of 2015 Daytona 500 qualifying. It was really bad. So because basically nobody wanted to come out of pit road because they wanted the lead car to come out because the lead car wasn't getting the most speed, unlike the drivers behind them in that case. So they switched back to doing single car qualifying, but still with the rounds. So what do you prefer? Would you like to see single car qualifying come back or continue on what we have now?
Well, I mean, for me, as a fan and not a real knowledgeable fan, but a fan, I think I would like to see single car qualifying come back. I'm not sure why I like that, but I think that I liked it a little bit better that way. But I would defer to you on what's better for most people. What do you think, Alex?
Well, with the group qualifying and everything, NASCAR tried. They're trying to make qualifying, I think, more exciting and more broadcastable.
Like an event. Yeah, an event.
Yeah. This just sets up the starting lineup for the race. So I can understand why. And of course, this is just a safety move out of NASCAR, which is understandable. Some people won't like it, and I can understand that completely. But again, when you see it from a safety perspective, I understand this rule change. Enforcing pit road speed. Now it's different for the All-Star race. When they qualified for the All-Star race, for those who are eligible now, which are winners from this season and last season, basically, I think you do one lap, and then the next lap you have to come down pit road at any speed you want. As in you don't have to. People come in at like 120 miles an hour down pit road and just, and then they change 4 tires, go back out and complete another lap, and basically the fastest of that. And of course, that's the All-Star race, so that's completely understandable.
Right?
Don't do that for every race, please. Perhaps maybe it might be not too bad of an idea to go back to single car qualifying, but keep the rounds to keep it interesting. But as of right now, I think things are fine as it is, and we'll see how the qualifying sessions roll out with this new rule, who might get affected by it, who gets penalized, who doesn't, who's a benefit, because some teams have actually qualified with this new aero package. They have qualified relatively well. I don't think it's just like, oh, this is terrible. It's just a safety change. So as of right now, I think things are fine as it is, and this is a safety move by NASCAR.
Okay, very good. And I like to see NASCAR being proactive, though, knowing that they needed to do something after Atlanta and Phoenix with safety, and I like to see them being proactive.
Oh, definitely. So the reason why I asked you before we did our show about tandem drafting is because somebody asked Brad Keselowski on a Facebook Q&A And Brad basically, someone said this on Reddit. Brad basically implied that he thinks tandems will be back, but he could be completely wrong. He also mentioned teams have been talking about it for about 2 weeks. If someone wants, so teams have talked about this. The two-car tandem drafting was something that NASCAR tried to do in 2011 at Daytona and Talladega. Since you pulled it up, would you like to see what you've learned about it?
Sure, I pulled it up, and basically what I came up with is a 2011 Daytona 500, and it was an article for SB Nation by Jeff Gluck, who you've already mentioned on this show.
Yep.
I think you did, right? It was called An Opinion on the Two-Car Drafts, and it was talking about the Daytona 500. It was in February of 2011, and it was talking about, you can hate it, or your second option is to accept it and deal with it. And the two-car, I think they found that was just giving them a lot of speed, right? And I basically just read the article and I don't know really what I took from it other than the fact that I think it may be coming back. Is that what Kazasi is alluding to?
Yeah, he's predicting that with the new aero package and engine package, the restrictor plates are gone. That's what he is thinking.
Yeah. So and then NASCAR, they haven't been opposed to banning the push drafts, have they?
The push draft?
Tried to ban that? Yeah. Could NASCAR ban the push draft?
Yeah, so if you push for too long, you could actually get penalized for locking bumpers. And I think that's what happened to, I think it was Brett Moffitt at the Daytona truck race back in February.
Oh. Okay. So do you think this is going to come about at Talladega?
It's very possible. And if that's going to be the case, let them push, in my opinion. It's just part of my analogy of let them drive. There's nothing wrong with it. I have,
right.
I always.
Do you enjoy watching that as a fan?
Yeah, I was always thinking well, should you get penalized for locked bumpers? Because I think that, if I just believe let them drive. If they push. If they push, they push. That's always been kind of like my issue. Although the Daytona 500 was very good in my opinion, but that was still under the old package. But once again, I'm that kind of guy. I want to wait and see what happens with at Talladega and see what happens. That's pretty much the only way we will know.
I found a blip in here I wanted to ask you about that Jeff wrote, and he said, until the track wears out and begins to lose its grip, making cars slip and slide through the corners like on the old surface, this is the kind of racing we'll see at both Daytona and Talladega. So the track losing its grip, that hurt. When the track loses its grip, does that kind of affect the two-car tandems?
Yeah. Good. Interesting thing you mentioned that. 2011, that's when Daytona was just newly repaved. After 2010 Daytona 500, there was a couple of long red flags because they had to repair the track because it was just so beaten up, so they repaved it. And then Talladega was repaved back in 2006. So, yeah, after a while, even when it comes to newly paved tracks, that starts to go, that just starts to go away after a while.
Okay. Now, a question specifically about Auto Club, what we're going to see this Sunday. Will things start to get stretched out a bit, or will we see 6, 7, 8 cars within 5 seconds of each other, or will it be stretched out? What will we see?
Judging from what I've seen in the past few races, or the first few races, I should say, this season, I'm going to say that the restarts for about the first 7, 8, 9, 10 laps, you're going to see, especially at a track like that, I could see 4 or 5 wide on those restarts. I mean, they're going to be, I think they're going to be interesting at a track like Auto Club and even Michigan later in the summer. And then after that, I do think that things will stretch out, but it won't be as stretched out as previous years, but it'll still stretch out like normal. But I think you'll still see a lot of passing and so on and so forth.
Okay, that's good. I'm looking forward to it. I as I did some research on the race, I saw that, the last 5 years we've had 5 different winners. So I like that, because previously to the last 5 years, so going back to like 2013, we had a repeat winner, which was Kyle Busch, and then we had Stewart win 2 out of 3 years, 2010 and 2012, and we had Jimmy Johnson. He won 07, 08, 09, 10. He won 4 in 4 years. Now, remember, Auto Club used to have 2 races per year.
Correct.
And that went away in 2000, and the last time they had 2 was 2010. So there's been 1 race, 11, 12, 13, 14. That's what I'm seeing, all in March. So we're sticking to that script. So in the last 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 years, since they've gone back to the single race, we've had it goes Harvick, Stewart, Busch, Kozlowski, Johnson, Larson, Truex. So only Kyle has won multiple times since they went to 1 race a year. So if that theme holds true, we may have a new winner again this year if that theme holds true.
Yeah, I definitely agree to that. I could see there might be one driver in particular I might see that may repeat from previous years, but we'll see. I am looking forward to this race.
Yeah, and then I noticed too on the Xfinity on the Saturday race, Kyle's entered, and he's a favorite in the race. And normally the favorite in an auto race is still a 3-1. You can get 3-1 on your money, or 4-1, or even up to as high as 6-1 at certain tracks. And we'll go over this later. But I noticed that Kyle is minus 140 to win Xfinity, which means you have to lay 140 just to win 100. He's a significant favorite on Saturday in the Xfinity race here. That's about as big a favorite as I've ever seen in a race,
Yeah, and after just seeing the last couple of races, I am going to say right now Kyle Busch will win that race, and that will be win number 200.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and call it now. If it's not Kyle Busch, well, then I feel like it's kind of up in the air.
Right. The next 2 choices I thought of were Christopher Bell or Cole Custer.
Yeah.
And I think Bell particularly is a star in the wings. He's going to be a great Cup driver over the next 3, 4, 5, 6 years. You're going to see his name popping up kind of like Joey Logano's did, and Kyle Larson. I think he'll be in that realm here in the next couple of years.
I definitely agree. I could see Christopher Bell being a Cup driver by next year. Of course, depending where a right opens.
Right,
other notable drivers. Yeah, Ryan Preece has entered for Junior Motorsports in the 8, so perhaps he could be. I think he could be a potential favorite. He's definitely proved himself driving the races for Joe Gibbs, kind of like Jeffrey Earnhardt now. So the 8's pretty much an all-star rotation car. It'll be interesting to see how he'll do in his Velveeta Shells and Cheese Chevrolet that he's driving this weekend.
And just to give the fans a backdrop on the Xfinity race, last year it was won by Joey Logano, and the year before was Kyle Larson, and then the year before that was Austin Dillon, and then Kevin Harvick. So we've had 4 different winners the last 4 years.
All Cup drivers.
All Cup drivers, yes. So if that theme continues, you're looking at Kyle Busch, coming back and winning that, and he hasn't won here in the Xfinity since 2013. But he did win, and he won 13 and 14 in the Cup car. So he has not won since 14 at this racetrack.
Yeah, I remember the 2013 race and how that race ended. Basically, Logano and Hamlin were both fighting for the win, kind of beating and banging, and Kyle Busch just quietly snuck by them on the final lap going into turn 4. And then Hamlin and Logano ended up getting involved. Hamlin actually hit a wall, an inside wall that wasn't safe for barrier, and he got injured actually and sat out for some races. And Halen just was off the entire year because of it, in my opinion. But just if you want to look that up later, I remember watching it well. So you brought that up. It just made me think of that.
Yeah, that'll be interesting. I'm looking forward to that. I will look that up.
Yeah, it's definitely helpful when you you look back on races in the past. Another thing, somebody made this cartoon. I think I retweeted it on my Twitter. This was made by Boncos do Bruno, I believe. Yeah, or Comics by Bruno. And basically, the restarts at Phoenix, and it was really funny. Obviously, they drew the cars, the paint schemes, but obviously, Martin Truex's Bass Pro card just had a fish on it, and Joey Logano said oil. Kyle Busch just says Candyman. And it's really funny. I'll send it to you. You can check it out. It's also on NASCAR Reddit's Twitter and their Reddit as well.
Yeah, please do. Alex, I've got you on my favorites, but for those listening, what is your Twitter handle?
My Twitter handle is AlexGray83, and Gray is spelled Gray.
Okay, so Alex Gray, AY, 83. Alex Gray 83. Okay. All right, that's good. Yeah, I want the fans to look that up, and I'm definitely going to go look it up too. I follow you, so I'll see it.
The funniest part in this one is Ricky Stenhouse's car is an 18-wheeler. And then I think it's Ryan Newman's is the Oscar Mayer Wienermobile because we sponsored Oscar Mayer. Are you kidding, Ricky? An 18-wheeler, really? So it's just I love stuff like that. It's really funny. You guys need to check it out. Comics by Bruno or Boncos do Bruno. It's really hilarious. I want to see more stuff like that. That is good stuff.
Very good.
Very good indeed.
I had a question for you. In terms of passing at Auto Club, will we see passing? Is there a certain area on this track that is more susceptible to passing? Where will we see some of the better of the action? Is it into the first turn or coming out of turn 3? Or are you familiar with the track enough to answer that?
For restarts, for sure. Obviously, when they drop the green flag, going into 1 will be fun to watch. For some reason, I want to think the front stretch for some reason, because I know some cars may try to dive down to that inside line as well, see if they can make a move. That's probably the best way I can answer that.
Okay, good. Very good. I like to have just kind of a backdrop of things before I go in to watch a race, just as a novice fan, I consider myself novice basically. I like to have something I'm looking for,
All right. So before we get to our picks for Auto Club, I'm checking my sure I didn't forget anything you wanted to discuss. There's a guy named NASCAR Man on racingreference.info. If you don't know what Racing Reference is, if you want to look up the career statistics of any driver out there, this is the place to do it across Cup, Xfinity trucks, IndyCar, ARCA, F1. It's all on there. This person, NASCAR Man, he writes articles on there too called Historical Motorsport Stories. He posted one today, March 14th. It says, looking back on the Los Angeles street race. I didn't even know this was a thing, so I read up about it earlier.
Wow.
It says here it's supposed to be a tremendous spectacle. NASCAR competition on the streets of the nation's second largest city. The Los Angeles street race only lasted 3 years and quickly faded away into forgotten obscurity. Why wasn't it successful? Again, I'll give you this article as well if you want to read it. Basically,
So this was on racingreference.info?
Correct.
Okay, cool. All right.
And I won't read the entire article. I'll just point out some certain things. Basically saying, after years of planning, the LA street race was organized by Bill Burke, man who also organized the Los Angeles Marathon. Very first version of this event was Labor Day weekend 1997. as a series of vintage races for exotic antique sports cars. Basically talking about how this has been a dream that he's been working on for several years. Looking to grow even bigger in 1998, Burke was able to schedule a NASCAR race. On Labor Day, the Featherlight Southwest Tour series would run on the streets of Los Angeles on a 1.1-mile road course through Exposition Park, past the LA Coliseum and the Los Angeles County Natural History Museum. It says here that workers installed, quote, 10 million pounds of concrete flat rail, 9 miles of fencing and steel rope, and 200 tire pallets. With the overall event titled the Ford LA Street Race, it received a lot of attention and optimism from everyone involved. Let's see. Burke here said, "I believe having NASCAR running here is as productive for the city of Los Angeles as NFL football will be." In addition, yeah, I chuckle at that because, of course, just a few years before they lost their two teams, in which they now have two teams
right.
again. The inaugural race attracted many stars, actually. After running the Southern 500 on Sunday, drivers such as Mark Martin, Ken Schrader, Chad Little flew cross-country to compete in L.A. the very next day. Road racing stars Boris Said and Willie T. Ribbs showed up, as did current and future NASCAR stars like Lon Hornaday, Kurt Busch, Kevin Harvick, and Matt Crafton. Says here that Greg Pursley won the pole with Kurt Busch starting in second. The Ringers, who flew in for the race, were forced to qualify on Monday morning when the event began. Pursley led the first 31 laps as several cautions flew. Kevin Harvick fell out with electrical problems. Kurt Busch lost an oil pump. Mark Martin worked through the crowded field with precision, took the field on lap 52. Willie T. Ribbs was one of the biggest names in road racing during the 1980s, but stopped racing after 1994. He came out of retirement to compete in this race and was running in second on lap 56 when he fell out of the race with rear end problems. Steve Portenga passed Mark Martin for the lead on lap 66. 4 laps later, Martin tried to retake the lead but slipped in turn one and hit the wall. The race stayed green, and Martin slowly pulled off the track. Mark Martin told the LA Times, quote, "I was trying to put more and more pressure on him to try to get him to slip, but I was the one that did the slipping instead." He said, quote, "The street course was a bit of a challenge for me," he continued. "With the road course, I'm not used to having the walls. I'm used to be able to get right on the edge of the track without skidding the wall like I did today." Let's see here. Ken Schrader got up to second but blew an engine at lap 80. Green-white checkered finish extended the race from 89 to 90 laps. Ron Hornaday took over second but lost power on the final restart. Man, a lot of mechanical problems on these cars and fell to 13th. Portenga beat Boris Said by 1 second to win the first race in Los Angeles with 10 cautions. 10 cautions slowed that race, and only 17 of the 40 cars that started were able to finish. The race returned in 1999, but this time the track was redesigned so people wouldn't be blocked from getting to the nearby museums. The second street race featured many more crashes and was called, quote, a demolition derby by the LA Times, as 11 cautions slowed the race to an average speed of 46.943 miles per hour. Kevin Harvick led 34 laps before he ran into the problems. Kenny Irwin and Ken Schrader flew to Los Angeles after racing in the Southern 500. Four were both taken out in accidents. Both finished in 10th with no right side door fenders. Most all cars were described as suffering some sort of damage. A.J. Alsup led 68 events and won the event, and then it was reported that the second event had much fewer spectators than the first. Perhaps for this reason, the race was moved from Labor Day to mid-July for 2000. The 2000 race was once again called a demolition derby. 12 cautions, 49 laps slowed the race to an agonizing 46.272 miles per hour average speed. Crashes, stalled cars, pit fires, and even a dog on the track stretched out the action. This race was won by Craig Rodman, who beat out Matt Crafton by 2 seconds. Unfortunately, by the end of 2000, people began to lose interest in a Los Angeles event, and the idea of NASCAR racers repeatedly crashing on a tight street course. Ford pulled their title sponsorship, and the event didn't have the money to continue. Despite the hopes the event would be long-term, the LA street race only lasted a few years. Los Angeles got their NFL team, but lost their race.
Wow. You know, I live here near Los Angeles. I'm about 45 minutes drive, and I'm a huge sports fan, as you know, and I did not even know that existed. That is really cool memory, that you brought up, so that I'll go back and check that out, closer. And I didn't even know that was going on. That's really cool.
Yeah, and they actually have a video here of, I think, the race from 2000. Yeah, check it out by NASCAR Man, the historical sports stories from racingreference.info. So I didn't even know about that, and maybe that's why NASCAR hasn't tried street courses, unlike IndyCar. Now, of course, with IndyCar, those cars are much lighter. They turn quicker than NASCAR's, and they're a lot lighter. But would you like to see NASCAR try street course racing again?
I think I'd like to. I think they were onto something there, and maybe it just didn't stick. But maybe their idea of having it, maybe they were really onto something, that if they tweak it now and can get some sponsorship for it, I think it'd be neat, because these drivers, if we can get some of the named guys to do it, these are big-time celebrities now, these guys, and I think people would love to see it. I would. I don't know how it would fit. Yeah, I don't know how it would fit with their contracts, whether they would, the car owners or the team owners, would allow them to kind of branch out into something like that. I don't know the danger of it, if it's actually dangerous, or if it would interfere with scheduling. They'd have to work all that out, but I think it'd be neat to see.
Yeah, NASCAR currently, after next year, the contracts with all the tracks end, so NASCAR is going to be able to switch around and potentially add new tracks into the Cup schedule starting in 2021. Perhaps, maybe, a street course race could be brought up then. Obviously, NASCAR is listening to the fans. NASCAR is, making a lot of interesting moves. Obviously, North Carolina Speedway in Rockingham got bought. They're planning on putting in like an entertainment complex. They want to bring racing back there. Nashville Fairgrounds is partnering with Bristol to bring NASCAR back there, so they're going to renovate that track. Lucas Oil Speedway, formerly known as Indianapolis Raceway Park, that track is renovating and hoping for a NASCAR return. So we talked about IndyCar as well as the street courses. IndyCar kicked off. Now, of course, I know this is a NASCAR show, but I actually don't have a problem discussing IndyCar or anything that I was able to catch just out of the curiosity.
NTT, sure.
Yeah, so the NTT IndyCar Series opened up their season at St. Petersburg, which is a street course. Joseph Newgarden ended up winning that race. Out of all the rookies, if I were to take away anything, I was very impressed by the rookie Rosenqvist from Sweden, driving for Chip Ganassi. Led a lot of laps. I think he ended up finishing like 6th or 7th. He ran relatively well. But I was listening to NASCAR America earlier on NBC, and I was intrigued by this. The potential that you take a race weekend where IndyCar and the Cup Series are running at that track that weekend, and perhaps we could see, one-offs, like some of the Cup guys can do double duty, run IndyCar Series the day before and vice versa. How do you feel about that? What track do you think they could do it at?
Oh, I think it'd be tremendous. I think anytime you bring something out like that that's new, and I just think it's interesting and draws interest. Where would I like to see it at? Michigan comes to mind. Does that make any sense to you?
Yeah, Michigan or Auto Club. Let's see, maybe Iowa, if they perhaps put Iowa in the Cup schedule, or Pocono. Just to name a few races that currently run in IndyCar as well. There's Texas as well. So I think Michigan would be
Yeah, I'm sorry to interrupt. I was going to ask you, do they still do that double day where they have the NASCAR race, and then they have this, right afterwards they do they fly the drive. A couple times you've seen a driver run the one race and then he flies to get to the next, on the same race day. Do they still do that?
Oh, you're talking about the Indy 500 and the Coco 600?
Yes, that's what I'm talking about. Do they still do that?
Yeah, there's been a lot of discussions about certain drivers doing that. The last time it was done was in 2014 when Kurt Busch did the double. He was really good in the Indy 500, by the way. Did a really good job. I think he finished I think he finished in the top 10. He was pretty good. So
yeah, that's so neat. And so in this, what you brought up would be the fact that these guys could do both because it's at the same venue.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I think that'd be tremendous. I'd love to see that.
Yeah, and plus with and they talked about this too on NASCAR America, the idea that IndyCar and NASCAR can do something like that, work together and build motorsports as a whole instead of one trying to compete over the other. I actually really like that.
Yeah, me too. And we've seen so many drivers be able to cross over and be successful. They might have more success in one over the other, but I mean, you've seen drivers be able to do both. And look at the number 42. I'm drawing a blank, a Hispanic last name.
Juan Pablo Montoya.
Juan Pablo Montoya. He was a great Indy driver, and then he came with a lot of fanfare to the NASCAR. Never really had it plan out like he wanted to in the NASCAR circuit, but he tried it for a long time, and now he's back in the Indy circuit. Correct?
Let me check Montoya. He of course did Formula One for quite some time. He actually did a driver swap with Jeff Gordon. So what they did was it was a special event, at Indy, and the two of them just basically swapped cars. Montoya got in the Gordon's stock car. Gordon got into the Formula One car. And this has happened before. This actually happened as well back in November with Jimmy Johnson and Fernando Alonso. And then, of course, Montoya came in the NASCAR in 2007. He did win a couple Cup races, both of them on road courses. And I remember in 2009, I was at the Brickyard 400. He had the pole, and he was running really well there. And then I think he had a pit road penalty and just absolutely messed his whole day up. And then I went back to that track in 2015. Ironically enough, he won the Indy 500. So I thought that was kind of cool. I got to see him win the Indy 500. As of right now,
that is cool.
As of right now, I don't think. Let's see here. It says here in 2017, after more than 6 months of absence, he returned with Penske for the 500, finishing sixth. He was a test pilot for the new aerodynamic kits that IndyCar did. And besides that, though, I don't think Montoya is racing at this time. Although, who knows?
Wow.
Maybe he can. Who knows? Maybe he'll come back and run the Indy 500 this year. But it looks like Montoya doesn't race as much as he used to.
Okay. Good information. Are you ready to do some picks?
Yeah, let's go ahead and make our picks for Auto Club.
Sounds good. I pulled up some information for the fans who are interested in the betting side of this. And, if you remember last week, you had Harvick, the favorite in the race. He owned that track and previously. Mm-hmm. He was a 3-1 favorite. That was the lowest. Actually, it was a little lower than that. I think it was 2.5-1, 5-2 favorite. And the favorite in this race this week is, once again, Harvick. But we've got him at a co-favorite with Kyle Busch, and it's at 5-1. So there should tell you that it's a little bit more of a wide-open race this weekend. So you've got Harvick and Busch at 5-1. You've got Joey Logano at 6-1. And you've got Kyle Larson at 7. And, let me back up. Brad Keselowski's also 6. So 6 Logano, 6 Keselowski. And then Kyle Larson is 7-1, along with Martin Truex. So there's your top 6 picks: 2 5s, 2 6s, and 2 7-1s. And we're 3 out of 4. You've carried us twice. I was able to hit Hamlin the first weekend, and you hit the last 2 out of 3, including Kyle Busch last week. And I'm really curious to get your pick, but I'm going to try to beat you to the punch and take. I've got 2 drivers that I'm going to be betting on, but the one that I'm going to pick as my official pick here on the Grueling Truth Sports Network NASCAR Show is going to be Joey Logano at 6-1. That's who I'm going to pick this
All
week,
right.
and it kind of falls in line with what we talked about when we talked about the previous winners. There's been 5 years, 5 different winners, and since we've had a repeat, and I think Logano can get this one and make it 6 years in a row having a different winner. He did win Xfinity here last year. We talked about that, I think, as well. So he has won here on the track, and that was March 17th of 2018. And so I'm thinking he's going to come here in 2019 and win the Cup Series. That's my prediction is Logano. And then the other driver that I think has a shot, money-wise, is to throw a couple of dollars out there. I was looking a little bit at Eric Almirola. I've been trying to look for a spot for him. He's 20-1. Boyer's racing well. It seems like he's in the mix the last few weeks. He's 20-1. Looking.
He's certainly one of those drivers you can keep your eye on for Auto Club. Because Eric Almirola, since he stepped into that 10 car last year, he's done a really good job.
Yeah, he has. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to take as my long shot driver Eric Almirola. Just put a couple bucks on him. He's 20-1, so a few bucks on him would make you some decent money. And then Logano is my official pick though at 6-1. So
all right,
so you got
it. With my pick, of course, the last 2 winners have been Truex and Larson. I feel like Ganassi has been the top Chevy team so far this season, and I think they're nearing a win. I feel like they're nearing a win, and I'll be a little different here. I'm going to go with Kyle Larson. I think Kyle Larson wins, tries to get Chevy going here. I think he wins Auto Club. And if I were to pick more of a long shot driver, I'll say Eric Jones.
Okay, very good. All right. Yeah, Eric Jones is 25-1, and that would be definitely a good long shot to have. And so we're both kind of along the same lines. I've got a 6-1 and a 20-1, and you've got a 7-1 and a 25-1, and that would be good if Kyle Larson could get Chevy going. Excuse me. That'd be neat. I also happen to really like Kyle Larson. He's one of my favorite drivers because of his open wheel experience.
You okay?
Yeah, I'm okay. I just got to get some water here real quick.
All right. While he gets some water, I'll also bring it up that Richard Petty Motorsports just tweeted this. Today we remember Lee Petty, the patriarch of the Petty family, on what would be his 105th birthday. He racked up over 50 wins and 3 championships in his Hall of Fame career. He was also the first ever Daytona 500 winner. Happy birthday to the late Lee Petty, the father of the king, Richard Petty.
Wow, that's awesome. Great to know it's his birthday. That's cool. Well, very good, Alex. It's going to be a great race, and the time of the race, I'm not sure. Usually it's around 12:30 when it's out here. Do you have the time in front of you?
I'm looking that up right now for you. I want to say it's 3 o'clock, but I want to confirm before I say anything.
3 o'clock Eastern, right?
Yes, 3 o'clock Eastern.
Right. So I was talking Pacific. So yeah, we're in the same area code there. Yeah, 20. I got a 12:30 start probably for Pacific.
Correction. The start of the Cup race at Auto Club is 2:30 p.m. Eastern time.
Oh, okay. So 11:30, a little bit earlier. Okay, that's interesting. Okay, cool. They probably want to get that done a little sooner, and I have it. I don't know. It's usually at 12 or at 12:30, but yeah, 11:30. That's great. I'll be looking forward to that, and I enjoy doing the race commentary with you, Alex. You know a lot about what you're talking about, and I suggest anybody follows you at your Twitter handle get some good information and things that you spoke of today, and that's Alex Gray 83, right?
Yep.
Alex Gray 83. All right, my friend. Anything else you want to bring up before we sign off?
I can't think of anything. I feel like in my notes that I have covered everything. Well, okay, a couple quick things. Jeb Burton, the son of Ward Burton, he's going to drive the 52 Cup car for Rick Ware at Martinsville. I wanted to bring that up real quick. Bob Pockris reported that. And, that's now about it.
Yeah, that's another great guy to follow, too. He's got so much good information.
Yeah, I certainly do my best. I'm willing
really good.
Yeah, I'm willing to make discussions. If there's anything interesting you want to, say to me, like, hey, what are your thoughts on this? Or, one thing I'd actually like to bring up more later on is talk about, like, old NASCAR what-ifs or, like, all these old NASCAR rumors that I saw. I just like to read about, especially under the historical motorsports stories, too, that I like to talk about as well. So maybe I can do more of that. Besides that, that will wrap up today's show. I want to thank everyone for listening here. Special thanks to Bobby Sheridan for joining me here today from the Sheridan Report. Check him out on Twitter. And he's the man with if you want a good pick for the race, he definitely has the odds. And from all of us here, Bobby, is there anything else you wanted to say?
No, we're good. You can get on me. I specialize in sports games, and you can follow me at Sheridan Report. That's SHERIDAN at Sheridan Report, and I put a lot of good stuff on there daily.
All righty. All right. Well, we'll be back Sunday night to talk about the race at Auto Club. Thank you guys so much for listening to the NASCAR Show here on The Grueling Truth, where legends speak. Along with Bobby Sheridan, I'm Alex Gray, signing off.